Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Catholic Spotlight, and joining me today is Marvin Matthews, who is volunteer coordinator at St. Michael Catholic Community in Calgary. Thanks, Marvin, for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the ministry, volunteer coordinator. Tell me what that entails.
Basically, when someone joins the parish and wants to join a ministry or volunteer in a ministry, they're directed to me, and I will, go through the paperwork that the diocese requires for them to fill out. If they're already a parishioner and they've already volunteered, so it's not as many hurdles to jump over. But if they're new to the community or new to the parish, then I tend to meet with them. And then I'll direct them to the website and show them all the ministries that are offered and see if there's anything that matches their interest.
Hmm. And how long have you've been doing this?
So I retired from CP Rail in 2018. I worked in corporate communications
Oh,
and I guess took a break. And then a friend of mine from St. Michael's contacted me and said, "Hey, St. Michael's is looking for a volunteer coordinator. You should look into that." And I really was not interested in working again. I was taking it easy. But I went with it and I met with Father John, who was the priest at the time. And I think they were looking for somebody who wasn't connected to the church. They wanted somebody from the outside who didn't know the parishioners.
oh,
I go to St. Peter's in the Northwest. So I think that maybe had something to do with, with me maybe getting on board there rather than getting somebody from who was already connected to the church who knew all the parishioners. I think that helped. Um, it was a great way to meet people. I like to engage with people and make new friends. So when the job was offered, I took it, and it lasted until about just before COVID. Once COVID came, I started doing some of the work from home, and then I guess it would have been let me think here, 2020. They let me go because of the same reasons, because of COVID.
yeah.
And then in beginning of 2023, Father Edmund was came on board, and he called me and he asked me, "Would you like to come back?" And so the timing was right. And so I came back. I do a lot of the work from home because I can access all the files. But I do come into the office once a week for meetings, and if there's any other reason, come in. But it's been great because it's been a wonderful way to meet people.
Let's talk about being involved as a volunteer. Like, how how difficult is it for not only churches but just
Yeah.
in general to get volunteers?
It's not easy. One thing that's difficult is that you have to really tread a kind of a careful line because you're dealing with volunteers. They're
Yeah,
giving of their time. They're giving of their, of what time they have, and you can't really force people to do this or do that and tell them, listen, you have to complete this paperwork. You have to do this. So you handle a lot of different personalities,
yeah.
and it's really comes down to managing personalities and massaging personalities. Um, we've been lucky that a lot of the people who volunteer at St. Michael's have been there for a long time.
Hmm.
And they're pretty dedicated to that parish. So that has made it a lot easier than it would have been, I think, trying to get brand new people in, which is always something we're trying to do.
Mm. Now, are there any particular ministries that you find it more difficult to get volunteers for?
Some of the ministries that require like a police check,
Yeah.
that is a little more difficult because people don't want to go through that process, even though it's pretty quick. You go online and you can do it within minutes. Uh, it's a bit of a hassle for some people to go online. If you're working with an older congregation, older population,
Mm.
who is not as comfortable doing things online, that becomes challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
But most of the ministries, they're pretty straightforward to get, to fill out paperwork and stuff.
Why do you think people do it? Why do people volunteer?
Um, well, I'll speak for myself. You want to be part of a community that can make a difference. And I think that's the way a lot of people think. You want to be part of something that can be positive and maybe result in a positive change. You want to feel like you're contributing to a community and contributing to your parish. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Hmm. What do you think the biggest stumbling blocks are in people's heads, I guess, that prevents them from going forward and
Yeah.
volunteering for
I think people have a belief that the time commitment is more than it is.
Mm.
Depending on the ministry again. Most of the ministries, there's not a huge time commitment. If you've got a young family, you're thinking, well, I don't have the time to devote to volunteering when I've got a young family to take care of. So I think a time commitment is a thing that people have in their head, which is, not shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. Do you have any idea roughly how many volunteers there are?
I would say pre-COVID, well over 1,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, I have a spreadsheet of all the volunteers, and the lines in the spreadsheet are over 1,100 lines. But there's not 1,100 volunteers today. I would say probably in the neighborhood of 700.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
many of those have been there since, well, since before I was there, even as a volunteer coordinator.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. What about your faith journey, Marvin? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I grew up in Montreal,
Ah,
and we moved to Calgary in 1998. But from the time I was about, I guess, uh, as an infant, our parents used to take us to church. I grew up to the point of resenting having to be forced to go to church.
yeah.
When I was about 10 or 11, my dad organized the first folk choir at the church in Montreal
Oh,
in our community. And I joined, and my sister joined, my older sister joined, and we played music. We played guitar in the choir. And when I was about 18 or 19, my dad passed away. And my mom was sure this is it. They're not going to go to church anymore because they were forced by my father forced us. So she was scared that that was it. That would be the end of that.
yeah.
But we got more involved. We got involved in the music side. We got involved in retreats and things like that, and became part of our existence. And that just carried on when I moved to Calgary. I joined choirs here when I moved here. So it's um, something that my mom feared would scare us away, just brought us closer.
Yeah. What does it mean to you to have that faith?
Um, I don't know. I can't. I guess it's hard to explain, but it's part of me. It's part of my. It's part of my being. I
Mm.
can't imagine not having that faith. It's part of my existence.
Yeah. And so over time, you mentioned the choir, but have you personally involved yourself in volunteer work for any specific areas of church?
Uh, not really with St. Michael's, but I play music at Rocky View Hospital once a month for the people in palliative care and the mental health patients. So we do that once a month. I've also been in a band for the last 20 years that plays only to raise money for charities. So if anybody hires us, we say to them, give us a check and we donate it to a charity of our choice.
Oh,
So we
cool.
never get paid. We just donate it to, and we have 12 people in the band. So everybody picks a charity each
Wow.
time we play. So it's never one charity.
Okay, got to know what's the name of the band?
The band is called the Ad Hoc Band.
The Ad Hoc Band. And
Yeah.
what
We're
music?
playing May 25th for the Calgary Run for the marathon
Oh, okay. What kind of
outside.
you guys play?
I'm sorry.
What kind of music do you guys play?
We play everything from about, I guess, the 50s to present day. Yeah. We played for a couple events at St. Michael's recently also.
Okay. And where do you play generally? Like this?
Usually it's halls, community centers or whatever. We've played for the Run for the Cure outside. We played for that a couple of times, in fact, then it's been 10,000 people outside for that. But like I said, we only do it because we love music. We don't get paid. Everything we ask the organization to make a donation to the charity of our choice.
Ah. Why do you do it that way?
Um, Two reasons. One reason is love of music. The second one is we feel like we're giving back to the community.
Hmm.
Feel like we're helping people in need.
Yeah.
We had the same kind of group when I was in Montreal. We did the same kind of thing. We'd go and, play and donate the money to charities. In Montreal, I was also part of a prison ministry.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'd go I think once every couple of months and just sit with a couple of people and talk to inmates and play music for them.
oh wow. Yeah. How was that? Like
Um, the first couple of times I did it, I probably was in my early 20s. It was pretty scary.
oh really?
It was pretty scary. Just walking through the yard with all the people in the yard and they're all looking at you. And it was intimidating. After a while, though, it got to be something that I looked forward to because it was really fun engaging with these people, talking to them. And then I actually met a couple of them after they got released. I met them uh, just by coincidence on the street. I met a couple of the people, and it was nice to see them in another environment like that. But the work itself was challenging, but rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, last question for you. A 30-second pitch. Can you give me a 30-second pitch to convince me to volunteer for church?
Well, especially this month, April is National Volunteers Month.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. So, I mean, what better way to contribute to your community or your parish by coming and volunteering and helping out?
Yeah. All right, wonderful. Well, thanks, Marvin, for joining us today.
Thanks very much for the invitation.
All right, that was Marvin Matthews, who is volunteer coordinator at St. Michael Catholic Community in Calgary. I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Catholic Spotlight. Thanks for joining us today.